we're going to open up the landscape JPEG. I'm going to select it, right click, open up with Photoshop. Now we have Photoshop launched, and here's your landscape JPEG. What we need to do next is name the layer. And that unlocks it. If it does not unlock it, make sure you have it unlocked. Then we're going to convert this into a smart object. Right over here, right click, convert to smart object. With this icon, it tells you that it's now going to be a smart object. We are going to make modifications to this. In order to do that, we're going to the Layer menu, Smart Object, and then Edit Content. You'll get this message. It's basically telling you if you want to commit to the changes that we are going to do, we need to make sure we say File, Save. As you can see, there's a new tab that opens up and shows. Right here, this ends the extension PSB. It's completely different than our original file. This also tells you that the smart object is disabled, so we are allowed to make this editable. Use your lasso tool or any other selection tool that you feel comfortable with. We're going to loosely go around the building. It should look similar to my selection. Make sure that the selection is active, which means it looks like running ants. And now we're going to go to Edit, Fill, and use the Content Aware. I'm not going to change any of these settings, and then hit OK. Now you can see that what happened is it grabbed all the other information around it and filled it in. I'm going to do a deselection. Content Aware kind of does all the hard work for you, but sometimes it's not always the answer. Another option to do changes would be going to your clone stamp, and we're going to brush over that shrubbery with a different area of this ground. First, I'm going to select a general brush with a hard roundness. And then I need to target. So basically I'm going to use this area to cover this area. So I'm going to hold down the Option key, which turns into a bullseye. I'm going to click and then let go of the Option key. You can see that it captured. I'm going to brush that over, and you can see how it's grabbing from that source and painting over to our new area. So if I want new source here, I hold down the Option key, I bullseye that area, and then I just paint over, and then there's my new source. If I want to use the Content Aware again, I make my selection, go to Edit, Fill, Content Aware, hit OK, and I'm going to deselect, which is Command D, and there it is. Now we want to make those changes to be saved. We want to commit to that. File, Save. So we're just saving what we just did, and we're going to exit out of that tab. And it brings us back to our original. Now we don't want to save this as a JPEG. We're going to do more changes. So right now, let's do a Save As. And for now, put your initials and the name, and leave the file format as Photoshop. With your newly named Photoshop file, landscape.psd, and your smart object layer, we are going to make some changes. Filter, Camera Raw Filter. Camera Raw Filter gives you this new window. There's lots of options to make changes. We are just going to adjust the exposure to be a little darker, and we're going to adjust the vibrance to reduce that yellow. So my exposure is around a negative 0.25. My vibrance is going to be at a negative 57. Once you're done making those adjustments, you hit OK. Right here you can see that this is the camera raw filter. It's almost like a sub layer. Turn it on and off to be able to see what the original looks like without the camera raw filter. This only will apply like this as long as you have a smart object. Remember to save your work, Command S. And the next thing we're going to do is go towards making a channel mask. The goal is to remove the sky. Right next to layers there's channels. If it's not there, you have windows and they'll take you to channels. We know that we're working in RGB, so the red channel, the green channel, the blue channel. We want to be in the blue channel because that gives us the most with the darks and the lights. We need to duplicate that channel. Right here in your option menu, it looks like a stacked pancakes. Duplicate channel. Name that tree line mask. Now that's the only layer that should be on. Everything else should be off because here we're going to make some more changes. The goal is to make this completely white sky and the trees and everything below completely black. The first thing, you want to zoom in to get some detail, and we're going to go to Image, Adjust, Levels. We're going to just adjust slightly, a little bit of the white, and then right in the middle of the gray, we're going to darken the gray just a little bit. Slight adjustments. Hit OK. I'm going to zoom out. And I'm also going to go to this large selection in the sky. The reason being is this large selection allows me to edit, fill, white. So that's easily taken care of. I'm going to find another area that I can select. So right here, all of this, we know it needs to be black. Edit, fill, black. Well, we're back to having just a small part now to deal with. You have multiple ways of resolving this. You can go back to the adjustment levels, and you can adjust the white, or we can adjust the gray again. You do not want to overdo it. We don't want to look like that. And some of it you will have to use just plain brush of white. Make sure you change your hardness to 100%. And then I'm going to change where I get the black. My goal is just to get the gray area, but there's some background, so we know there's some white that comes through. Remember to save your work, Command S. Now at this point, we're going to stay where we're at. All of this should be white, all of this should be black. We're going to hover our mouse over the thumbnail, hold down the Command key, click, and as you can see, it's selected everything that is white. We're going to hover right here, not over the RGB, not over here, just right there. Do a click, and what happens is we turn off the channel mask, but we turn back all of our RGB. We're going to transition now back from channels to layers. Leave that selection. Now in the layers, we're going to apply that layer mask. The problem is if we apply that now, it will make the sky stay there and everything disappear. And that does not resolve us helping us doing our situation that we need to have the reverse. The sky needs to go away and the trees need to be there. I'm going to undo. So when you have a selection in your layers, I'm going to inverse. If you want to make a mask, keep in mind whatever's selected stays and whatever's not selected goes away. So I'm going to now, as you can see, I inverse that selection that we did in channels. Now I have all of that selected, the trees, just the trees and the grass. Now I hit the layer mask and I have exactly what I want. Command S to save. I'm going to zoom in to see if there's any mistakes. If you need to make adjustments, you can go back here to make those changes, which is the mask, but one easy way of doing changes would be, as long as you're in any of the selection tools, there's select and mask. Click that. I'm going to change that transparency all the way. And then you're able to use this tool here, can add, brings back, or this tool, the minus, takes away. And it's all depending on your brush. So you want that no feathering and a hard brush when you're removing stuff that's very obviously sticking out. Now there's other areas where you want to have more of a delicate touch. So if I was to say right here, I'm just going to add that in. The refinement brush, when you have that feathered edge, which is 0 hardness, it knows, it tries to read the difference between the background and the foreground. So it can easily remove that background for you. So after you're done making those changes, either using the refinement edge brush or the regular brush, this is the refined edge brush, you hit OK and it takes you back to your original file. Remember to save your work, Command S. Now I'm going to just close that because we know it's a smart filter for that. We're going to File, Place Embedded, and we're going to bring in the blue sky. Automatically it comes in a bounding box, ready to transform. I'm going to double click and I'm going to just place it there for now. It does come in as a smart object, but we do need to arrange that layer to be below your landscape. Now I'm going to go to the move tool, move the blue sky over, so I don't want any of that white cloud there, and I'm going to resize this. Command T and hold down your Shift key to scale proportionally if you're in version 2018. If you're in Photoshop 2019, you do not have to hold down the Shift key and it will scale proportionally. And again, to apply this free transform, double click. We know what the smart filter, camera raw filter looks like. Now we're going to do some adjustment. Click on the actual landscape thumbnail that's here, not the mask. We're going to change the grass to be more green. Within the adjustment, if you don't know where that is, you can turn that on into Windows. And we're going to go right to Hue and Saturation. We're going to adjust where it's a little bit more green. Let's say a plus 32. As you can see, not only does it change everything green, it also affects the layer below. You don't want to affect that layer. We want to leave the sky as is. So we need to clip that adjustment layer. So right in the settings, you see this little icon. Click on it. This indents and has a little arrow and basically points to the layer that the adjustment layer is affecting. Let's make some more adjustment. We're going to go towards the blue sky. Select the blue sky layer. Let's go to brightness and contrast, and let's make a little darker the sky. I am going to clip it to the blue sky layer. It's not really necessary because it's below the landscape, so it wouldn't affect anything. But if there's a new layer that appears within here, it will affect whatever is below. Let's also, for the blue sky, go to Color Balance, and we want to go towards a little more of the cyan, just slightly, a -18. And again, this is already ready to be clipped, as you can see. That right there is our landscape file, our PSD landscape. Command save. Make sure you have this, which is the adjustment layer, clipped to the landscape layer that has the mask. The brightness and contrast adjustment layers are clipped to the blue sky. Both the landscape is a smart object and so is the blue sky. The landscape does have a camera raw filter. So everything that you see here is exactly how your file should look as well.